exclusive breaking news from the OG related to the Great White North. Another body dropped. Very brazen. Fits with what's been going on the last decade and a half. Bobby the Greek, whose real name is Charlembo Theologio, a.k.a. Bobby the Greek, gunned down, murdered in a Laval Starbucks Wednesday morning, sitting, drinking some coffee with a couple bodyguards and lieutenants, and one dead, one in critical condition. I'm not sure what the status of the other one is, but Bobby the Greek gone at 40, a guy that was in the mix, very connected, a power broker, a deal maker, somebody that kind of effortlessly, assimilated into different spaces in the criminal underworld in Quebec, dealt with bikers, dealt with the Rizzuto mob, dealt with the street gangs. And we're here to tell you where this investigation is going right now. I wanted to wait a couple days before I chimed in. I wanted to talk to some sources, and we are just very, very fortunate to have the kind of sourcing we do up in the Great White North. I wanted a white background for this conversation. And, this is the Montreal underworld in a nutshell right now. Life is cheap. Friends one day, our enemies the next. We're, unfortunately, I don't think this is anywhere near the end. Every time we think it's the end, it's not the end. And I'm just not going to be that guy who, and I've been that guy in the past that said this thing's headed towards closure or whatnot. There's so many different layers. Vito Rizzuto, he said it. When he was getting on the plane, we've gone over the anecdote, dozens of times. He told the authorities, you take me out of this and it all falls apart and it ain't going to be pretty. And that's what has happened ever since he got on that plane back in 2006. Yeah, he was back for about a year and a half-ish, where he, went scorched earth on the people that turned on him. And it's been crazy ever since. We can't say it enough. So Bobby the Greek is gone. Where did this come from? This is fresh out of the investigation. Right now, the investigation is pointing to behind bars, and that this was a hit called in from the Rizzuto mob brass. They've been locked, the majority of the shot callers have been locked up since June. You have newly empowered people running the show in this very delicate balance between all the different factions that was so masterfully overseen by Vito Rizzuto during his heyday. And I'll also say that this is a group in the Rizzutos that whenever you count them out, they're coming back swinging. And even though these guys are locked up and they're looking at relatively long sentences, they aren't to be trifled with, and they are just as powerful with the leadership locked up as they would be with the leadership on the street. And I think what's happened in the last couple months, first with the Arab mob, or I should Arab power crew, kind of turning on each other back in the summer, killing their number two guy, and now Bobby the Greek being killed in a, I'm going to categorize it as a statement slaying. That, from what I'm being told from the investigation, this is the Rizzutos. For whatever reason, I don't know exactly what the motive was here. A lot of moving parts and a lot of different factors in the posturing of each group towards one another. And I think that this is, again, kind of like what happened in the summer with Arab Power, where I think there was being pressure being put on them by the Rizzutos to take out Kabuchi. And I think here, for whatever their beef was with Bobby the Greek, who at one point, maybe even up until very recently, worked very closely with them. He's been connected to Baldi Barbario and Pietro D'Adamo, who are the top, outside of Leo Rizzuto, at the very top of the pyramid. D'Adamo and Baldi Barbario are the guys that are calling the shots day to day, or were before they got all indicted back in the summer. D'Adamo got taken off the street in March. But we have a situation now where they're asserting their authority once again. They're not any weaker. If anything, they're stronger. And Leo Rizzuto keeps on showing that he is a force to be reckoned with as a mafia don. He is Michael Corleone. He is the guy that wasn't groomed for this life and is turning out to be a superstar. And I say that knowing that he's looking at some stiff prison time if he's convicted in this upcoming case. But after it looking not more than a year ago that his days were numbered, he's flipped the script. And again, he's playing chess, not checkers. Whoever this came from, whoever gave the final say, the nod to take out Bobby the Greek and do it in such a cowboy fashion. This is that group, that organization saying, we push one button from where we are, we can touch you anywhere in the world. Definitely in Quebec, in the Montreal area. Leo Rizzuto's, dad and his uncle, his father. I'm sorry, his dad, his grandpa, his uncle as well, were guys that might be gone, but these are guys that had international power and influence, and Vito Rizzuto was hitting guys all around the globe, trying to avenge what happened, to his dad and his son. So Leo Rizzuto went from on the ropes to, he's really coming into his own as a mafia don, no matter what happens to him in court, because I don't think anyone was afraid of Leo Rizzuto at a certain point. And now that's all changed. Leo Rizzuto is a, he is becoming what his dad was. And the fact that he's doing it, fighting wars, fighting the government, the SQ, the crown, um, he's fierce, man. This is intense, and I think if we're going to drill down a little bit more, I think that this was Bobby the Greek, for whatever the reason is. In my reporting as we go on, I'll be able to get to kind of more motive, exactly what the motive was here, what happened that tilted Bobby the Greek towards getting a contract put on his head, allegedly by the Rizzutos. I know from some of the reporting right out of the gate, there was a lot of talk about Dirty Diaz and the 2019 murder of Dirty Diaz in the Toronto area, which, based on our reporting here at OG Pod and at our companion web magazine, the Gangster Report, we've always pointed to that as the spark that lit the fuse that became the 2-year plus war between the Rizzuto mob and the Hells Angels, longtime allies becoming bitter rivals for at least a couple years. Back on the same page now, have been for going on a year. The street is moving at a fast pace and hasn't slowed down at all with all these arrests and what we said kind of at the beginning. Life is cheap, and nobody is really spared in terms of whether it's a victim or somebody that's a target. And we'll get into that right now. Even the top leadership of the Rizzutos, according to our sources, and I believe there's been some reporting on this from mainstream media, the Rat Pack, aka Team Tupac, Atna Tupac, Atna, the godfather of the street gangs in Quebec right now. He has contracts allegedly out on the Rizzutos behind bars. He's been spearheading a campaign on the waterfront to try to edge the West End guys and the Rizzuto dock powers, edge them out, marginalize them, take a part of the waterfront for themselves, which they have, get control of the port. They're trying to get get pieces of the pie that they weren't able to get before. And Tupac is really proving to be quite the thorn in the side of his one-time employers, who then became his enemies, who then became his employers, and are now his enemies again. Started underneath Greg Woolley, then jumped to the Hells Angels side of the war between the Hells Angels and the Rizzutos, then jumped back into the Rizzuto camp via Baldy Barbario's politicking, and then for whatever reason, that has fallen apart, and Atna and his guys are actively trying to kill the Rizzutos, the top 2 or 3 guys. They're going for the heads of the snake. I sense, I don't know this for a fact, that issue might have played a role in what happened to Bobby the Greek. We also have, let's go back to the Dirty Diaz situation, where shot callers from the rolling 90s, guys that were affiliated to Era Power, they were the guys that carried out the Dirty Diaz murder. Dirty Diaz was allegedly killed for skimming profits from joint Hell's Angel Rizzuto gambling affairs. The Rizzutos, according to my sourcing, didn't go through proper channels, decided to kill Dirty Diaz, sent a hit crew from Montreal down to the Toronto area where he was a member of the full patch member of the Niagara chapter, and stalked him, killed him coming out of his workout at a local gym in suburban Toronto. And that did not sit well with Marty Robert and the Hells Angels. And there were 2 or 3 years of, sizing each other up quietly. Chit Del Basso coming over to the Hells Angels side, leaving the Rizzuto camp after being such a valuable cog in that wheel for so long, that everything erupted from that point forward. But it all started with Dirty Diaz and the belief that Leo Rizzuto and his guys called in a hit on a Hells Angel without going through the Hells Angels. Leo Rizzuto himself had issues with the Hells Angels back in the 90s, getting into bar fights, and guys ended up, a couple guys that were on the other side of it, in terms of Hells Angels that got into a physical altercation with Leo Rizzuto, ended up dead. One of them ended up dead. Now, it might not have had to do directly with that. We're not sure, but it probably played a role. And I believe that was Bam Bam Magnuson. But so it's also possible, I believe, if we're talking about, what motive was here, that the Hells Angels are telling the Rizzutos, we blame Bobby, and let's back up for 1 second. Bobby the Greek has been rumored to have been one of the brokers of the Dirty Diaz murder contract, brokering it from the Rizzutos to the Arab Power rolling 90s guys. And I think it's possible that the Hells Angels told the Rizzutos, we've been good. Business is good. We're glad to be back on the same page. But you got to do us a favor and take care of this problem for us. And this is to use a term from The Godfather, this has been a pebble in our shoes for 6 years. And we want you to take care of it. It was your transgression, and you shouldn't have done it. This is, the theory that I'm coming up with, and we want you to handle it. And that plays into some of the reporting that I have, that this was your classic gangland hit, in the sense that they rocked him to bed. They made Bobby the Greek, who knew there was a contract on his head, and that reporting has been out there, that he had, the last month or two, had been traveling with a set of bodyguards, more than he had in the past, that he was driving in a bulletproof Cadillac Escalade. I mean, he was surrounded by 2 or 3 guys when he got hit on Wednesday at the Starbucks. So I've been told that he was eased into a sense of comfort by the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels, that the threat on his life wasn't coming from them. It was coming from the street gangs. When in reality, I'm being told, it was coming from the Rizzutos, the Montreal Mafia, guys from behind bars, and they got some help from the 1% world, from the bikers. We know from the SQ and their surveillance squad that they caught Marty Robert and Bobby the Greek meeting at some point in the first week of September. And they were right when summer is becoming fall. Marty has been on just like back in 2024, where he was globetrotting in his role as the most powerful Hell's Angel in the world right now. He did it again, from what we're told. In 2025 was all around the planet, spreading the good word, letting everybody know that what we've been telling you here at the OG is what he's telling people in other parts of the world outside of North America. That the power in 81 Nation, Hell's Angel, it no longer goes through California. This isn't Sonny Barger's Hell's Angels. This is Nurgit and Marty Robert. All 6,000 people, 600 chapters. The power runs through Quebec right now, and that's what Marty Robert has been doing. He hasn't been spending a lot of time back home in Quebec, from what we hear. So when he's there, it's all business. He has his family time on the road. They go visit him wherever. I've said before, he's like the freaking James Bond of the biker world. You'll never know what continent he's going to be on, and when he's rolling wherever, he's a chameleon. He doesn't necessarily look like the biker that you envision from all the movies and Discovery Channel specials and TV shows with all the beards and the grungy looks and the tattoo. Marty's got tattoos, but he can cover them up. Marty is very debonair and is somebody that doesn't dress the part of a mafia boss or a biker boss. He's somebody that looks like a lawyer or a doctor out on the town. So him being in Canada and being seen with Bobby the Greek speaks to a couple things. First, it speaks to the fact that Bobby the Greek has the type of juice that someone like Marty Robert would be meeting with him. And it also speaks to the fact that Marty Robert, who, like I said, is not spending a lot of time back home on the home front in Quebec, he's only meeting with people of the highest priority. So I'm being told that, again, that Bobby the Greek was rocked to bed, led to believe by the Rizzutos and the Hells Angels that he had no worries from them. And in fact, the investigation as of the first 48 hours is pointing back to the Rizzutos and possibly with help from 1%, 81. Only time will tell. This is a developing situation, but I wanted to get everybody the knowledge where this thing is pointed, and it's not at the Hells Angels directly, and that's what a lot of the early reporting from the mainstream media is mentioning the Dirty Diaz situation. And I think there's some truth to it in a tangential manner, but in terms of where this came from, who this came from, who gave the final say, who did the job, I'm being told this was the Sicilians, this was the Rizzutos, the Montreal Mafia, exerting power from behind bars in a major statement for whatever particular reason that they hit Bobby the Greek. And again, we don't know, but I'm sure I'll be the first one to bring it to you. We know where it came from, and we know it was a statement from the Rizzuto clan that you might have us locked down, you might have us dead to rights in a court of law right now. I think that's what the prosecutors or the solicitors, as they say in Canada, what the Crown has to say. But you better not think that you can smell blood in the water. That it's going to be your blood in the water if you come at us the way that people have in the past. And again, these guys are playing chess, not checkers, and bodies continue to drop, even though the Rizzutos are all locked up, fighting for their proverbial lives in a courtroom. Again, we'll let everybody know what's going on. But Bobby the Greek caught up in this crossfire hurricane between Hell's Angels, the Rizzuto mob, Tupac Atnan, the Rat Pack mob. Man, this is Shakespeare would be in heaven. So, Original Gangsters Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. Uncovering the underworld, one city, one region, one country, one continent at a time.